Hi friends, Right Careers welcomes you to another brand new video. This is S. Sudarshan, your career coach. Before we get on to this topic, the customary thing, in case you have subscribed to my YouTube channel, thank you so much. And in case you haven't subscribed, do click on the subscription button and also the bell button for instant notifications of parenting and career related videos on a regular basis. Now we are sitting in the month of September, and September is that kind of the month where the undergraduate students who are currently pursuing the final year, or the pre-final year students, or the students who have completed their undergraduate students, think about what to study after their undergraduation. And the first, or perhaps the top two, I should say, or even the first thing that comes to any student's mind after their undergraduation is to get into an MBA, to pursue an MBA. So MBA, if you ask me, is perhaps the most sought after program in the globe, not only in India, across the globe after their graduation, because MBA is time tested and it's been there for a long, long time, giving successful careers to many students, including me, I should say. So MBA, at least in India, if you ask me, is more of an investment rather than academic program. That's how people look at as far as MBA is concerned. It is offered as 2 year program. The classical MBA mold, or PGDM we call, is offered as 2 years program in India. Even in abroad, some of the countries, foreign countries that I know, it's offered as 2 years. Yes, there are 1 year program. There are programs where you can study 1 semester or 1 year in India, go abroad and study. So there are different ways that you can pursue an MBA. But the most common doubt that I come across with the current generation of students is, yes, I'm willing to study MBA, but where to study? Before that, whether should I study in India or should I study MBA abroad? Which has more value? Which has more return of investment? Now, this doubt lingers across many students that I come across, and that forced me to choose a topic for this time. And the topic that we have taken is MBA in India versus MBA in foreign countries. Which one you should study from 2024 onwards, or from 2024 to 26 batch at least, that I can say, and further. So that's the topic that we have taken. We will see the different facets of comparison, starting from the course structure to the fees point to the placement to to the living expenses, etc., and then perhaps come to a conclusion as to which one that you should choose at the end of this video. To begin with, let us start with the course structure. Now, definitely, if you ask me the course structure, right at the beginning, I would like to say is the course structure is slightly different, if not very, very different. It is definitely different from what you study in India and what you study abroad. The MBA curriculum in foreign countries, be it any countries, including US or UK, is highly realistic in nature. When it comes to business management, it's more realistic and more practical, which means the methodology or the pedagogy will be very, very practical, more of case studies, more of industry related approach, problem solving approaches, where you get hands-on experience into solving the problem. And that's how most of the reputed universities abroad teaches you MBA. MBA basically cannot be taught inside four walls, right? Whereas cut across India, it is still, most, I'm not saying all the business school, but most of the business schools that I know offer a very traditional practice or traditional way of teaching MBA, and that's more into, the theoretical approach. Instead of practical approach, it becomes more theoretical. So if you ask me in this particular point, when it comes to course structure, the foreign MBA holds a definite edge. Moving on to the next comparison, the perspective or the outlook or the perspective globally. As the name itself suggests, global outlook, foreign MBA definitely holds an edge. I'll tell you why. Some of the biggest aspects of MBA versus other programs, be it an engineering program or a BCom or any undergraduation program, is the MBA classroom brings a lot of diversity. Yes, I understand some of your engineering programs, some of your arts and science programs will also have some kind of diversity, but the diversity that I'm talking about in a class of MBA is very, very different. Right from the geographical diversity to a diversity in terms of ethnicity, in terms of the mixture of students, in terms of work experience of the students, a classroom boasts several diversity. For example, you might be a chartered accountant or you might be an engineer who will be in the class. Your fellow student could be a guitarist. Your fellow student could be a athlete, would have represented a country and then come and pursue MBA. For example, I know Dilip Tirki, the former India hockey captain, after his retirement from Indian hockey, went and studied his MBA in ISB Hyderabad. So, you will have a classroom that comprises of people from different backgrounds, and that is where the real learning happens, because you get to learn leadership from Indian captain of hockey. That's phenomenal, right? So you get to learn leadership from different facets of people, different facets of walks of people who have achieved, who have diverse experience, and so on and so forth. So most of the classrooms in international school, business schools, will have an average experience of 3 to 4 years, and that automatically raises the level little bit above the Indian MBAs. Cut across to Indian MBAs, yes, there will be diversity, but not to an extent of how it is actually been when you go to a foreign university. So that's the difference, and therefore, in this point, when it comes to a global outlook, definitely, the global MBA or the foreign MBA holds a slighter edge. Cut across to the next comparison, the cost of study. Now, I understand if you're an Indian, if you're watching this video from India, a definite impactful or the important factor for you to choose a college or MBA institute or whatever it is has to be the financial implications. And trust me, in this point, Indian MBAs will easily outclass foreign MBAs, because an Indian MBA costs you much, much, much lesser than an MBA that perhaps if you study in UK or USA or any of the Canada or any of the foreign countries. An MBA in India, costs you in the range of somewhere between 8 lakhs or 7.5 lakhs to 20-25 lakhs. That's the tuition fee for the course. Whereas if you go to a reputed university, in US or UK, it can cost as high as 65 lakhs to 1 crore also. So the cost definitely varies. Not only that, when you go to a different country, the living cost is also quite high. So therefore, when you look at the cost of study, Indian MBA, and the return on investment for the cost that you put, Indian MBA definitely holds an edge. Moving on to the next comparison, the all important comparison when you look from an Indian perspective is the placements. Now, most of the business school, I want to quote it very, very clearly, not all the business schools, most of the business schools in India are kind of glorified placement agencies. I'm not getting into controversies here, but yes, most of the business schools that I know promote the business school through the placements. There's nothing wrong about it, but that's how Indian MBAs are. Whereas if you go to international destinations or a foreign country, they don't promote you with placements. Yes, the Office of Career Development Services will help you find a job, but they don't assure you or they don't guarantee you, and that's not the part of their program. Whereas in Indian MBA, you take any institute, placements will be the first USP, or the sole USP, I should say, the unique selling proposition for a business school is placements. So therefore, when it comes to placements, Indian MBA holds a huge, huge edge when it comes to the comparing with foreign MBAs. That's the next comparison. And the next obvious comparison is in the form of the salary. Yes, once again, an average salary for students who study MBA in India ranges from, as of last year, I'm saying from a elite business school in India ranges from 20 and 25 lakhs. That's the average salary. Whereas from a mid-level business school abroad, when you study, the average salary comes to somewhere around 75 lakhs plus. So therefore, when it comes to salary, international MBA holds a definite edge. Now, this point that I'm going to compare, is the most critical aspect if you're a serious MBA aspirant. Not everybody gets into, Ivy League universities, Ivy League MBAs in foreign countries, especially in Harvard or MIT or any business school. Not everyone gets. Similarly, not everyone gets into the IIMs. So you might, if you're a student who are targeting a mid-level university, mid-level institute in India and mid-level institute in abroad, which one to choose? My response is straightforward. If you have a good offer from an international university, I think you should definitely prefer international MBA for obvious reasons, because yes, the investments are high, the returns are also a little bit on a higher side. In reality, some international universities, trust me, it's an important point, some international universities offer you lesser cost than the Indian MBAs. For example, a country like Germany or Estonia, you go, these are some of the nations where the cost of MBA is relatively lesser than the Indian MBA. So do a thorough research before we get into the financial implications also. But then if you ask me, definite edge if you study a global MBA, there is no doubt about it if you look at a largest perspective. Now, as always in the segment, the pros and cons of studying MBA in India and abroad. First, if you see in India, it's familiar territory. These are institutes that have been there for 20-25 years plus, and you know them. They have been successful in producing leaders across Indian corporate and have been paying. I mean, that pays you really well also. So it's a familiar territory if you study in India, and there is a sense of job guarantee because they've been proving year on year on year, despite the recession, they have been able to attract good number of companies, and MBAs are paid well. So definitely Indian MBA holds that edge. The cost factor is also quite less, relatively less if you ask me, than a top institute in some other country. The work experience factor also in India, a fresher can easily get into a good institute, whereas in foreign countries it requires 1 or 2 more years to get into a good institute. Some cons: average salary definitely not on a higher side in India. If you're studying in India, the average salary will be relatively less than a foreign MBA. And the more importantly, the courses that are available today are very very limited. A pragmatic approach to courses are currently there. I'm not saying there is plethora. Yes, there are options, but it is relatively less when you compare an international MBA. If you ask me, the international MBA, the definite starting salary of or the average salary will be very very good. You get better exposure to from global perspective, but then there is no job guarantee or job placement. As I told you, that's not the way international universities work. Therefore, you have to consider that also. So to conclude, if you ask me which one is better, honestly, there is no answer because both are good in its own ways. Because any MBA that you study, the MBA program that you study is going to be very very significant from your career perspective. Therefore, you got to do a lot of research before you get into the business school. Rather than business school come approaching you, it's you who have to do, as a student, who have to do a lot of research. It's now, I'm sure at the end of this video you will be very very clear that and obvious that the Indian MBA is very different from international MBA. Just because your acquaintance has studied in UK, your family friend has studied in USA, don't fall for that. Do a thorough research, and in case you have any doubts on which MBA to choose, feel free to contact us, as we will be happy to assist you. And until next week with altogether different video, see you all. Have a safe week. Thank you.